Welcome back to the fourth video on the series where I'm showing you how I'm using AI to make a change to my Jekyll-powered website. In the previous one, I showed you how I'm using Perplexity via its API to get new canonical URLs for reading notes in my website. The last time we looked at pulling those canonical URLs for individual reading note files. In this video, I'm going to show you how I scale those operations to have the LLM work on every one of the reading note files. The key thing here, though, is that in experimenting with this approach in the past, I've found that the LLM is sometimes prone to hallucination. So I don't want to make changes directly to my Markdown files if I haven't had a chance to review what the LLM has come up with. So that's what we're going to be doing here. We're going to be updating the JSON files that contain the metadata that we're going to be working with. But then I'm going to dump that metadata into a spreadsheet that I can use to review the results as a set. And I'll tweak it there because I'm sure that there's going to be books where the LLM is not going to be able to find a canonical URL. And for those, I'm going to have to do the work manually. All right, so let's get into it. I have preserved the setup from the last video where on the upper left, we have the shell script that reads the contents of a JSON file to pull out the title of the book and the authors, and then it replaces the variables that I've specified in this prompt that gets then sent to the Perplexity Sonar Pro model. What we want to do now is we want it to work on every one of the JSON files in this JSON directory that we have. Let me make this a little bit bigger. So if you remember, we have this JSON directory, and it has, I think it's 69 files in there. And what we want to do is we want to have this script go over each one of those and use Perplexity to search the web for the canonical URL. This script, if you remember, by default, just dumps the resulting JSON structure into the standard output. We don't want that. We want it to be saved to the JSON file itself so that we can then have it stored. So that's the next change we're going to make here. I do want the output from this script to be consistent. So I'm going to specify that I want the new attribute that it's adding to the JSON object to be called canonical underscore URL. So I'm going to modify the prompt here. The resulting field, I'll call it attribute should be called canonical URL. All right, let's try it just to make sure that that is working correctly. So 2025. Let's try one we haven't seen before. So 2209. Okay. Oh, I called the wrong script. This one is called canonical URL. That's when you're doing things live, this happens, right? So 2209. Okay. All right, so it did indeed call it canonical URL. So we know that this is working. Now, what we want to do is we want to have the script save that new attribute to the JSON file. And as we did with the last video, I'm going to ask Claude to modify this script so that it does that. So I'll again fast forward so that you don't get bored with me typing. Here is the complete script. I want to make a change, which I will specify after the script. Okay, so let's copy this. The change is the following. The call to LLM will produce a new JSON structure that includes the canonical URL attribute. I want to add that attribute to the original JSON file. How would you modify the script to do this? All right, let's see what it does. Right, so it hasn't changed the beginning. And okay, so here's what it's suggesting. It is placing the results from the call to LLM into a new variable called LLM response. I'm going to copy this bit because it's placing that here. And I'm sure that there is a closing parenthesis at the end of this thing. Yep, there it is. So let's add the closing parenthesis. This so it's going to extract. It is extracting the new attribute, the canonical URL attribute, from that resulting from that LLM response variable. So that's what that next bit does. And it's using JQ as we did before. And then this last bit, it's wisely put it in a conditional, right? So it's actually checking that there is a canonical URL attribute to work with, and it is using JQ to modify the JSON file to add that new attribute. So let's copy this. And I'm going to paste that there. Let me just review this code. I want to make sure that this is not going to do anything pernicious. So I can see that it's saving the results to a temporary JSON file. And then it is moving that temporary file to replace the original. So that's how this bit of code works. I'm going to save it. And now I'm going to try it. And what this should do is this should change this file, the book notes file for how the world works. It should change it so that it includes this canonical URL attribute. So let's do this. Let's open that file in Emacs so that we can look at the current structure. Make this a bit bigger. So yeah, this is one that has this long Amazon URL. And after the script runs now, I expect this structure to include the canonical URL attribute. So let's do it. Let's run the script again. Okay, it says that it added it, and I'm going to reload this. And I also noticed that it's formatted it nicely, and I'm sure that that's the work of JQ. Yep, it's added the canonical URL field. That is exactly what we wanted. So this is now working correctly. What I'm going to do though, I'm going to delete this this attribute here, because I'm now going to go ahead and run the canonical URL shell script on all of the JSON files in the JSON directory. And to do that, with the shell is really easy. I'm just going to do a for loop. I'm going to make this a bit bigger here. So for file, well, you see that I've already tried it. So for file in the JSON directory, so files is what we're going to call the variable, do, and then we call the script with passing it the file variable. And I am going to run this. It's going to take a little while, so I'll fast forward to make it so that you don't get bored. And I'm going to have a sip of coffee while this works. All right, so it has finished. It took almost 5 minutes. Just in reading the URLs, I suspect that a lot of these are correct. I could see a couple that are not the URL for the book. Now, I could go through each one of the JSON files, open them, read the thing, but I don't find that to be the easiest way to understand a large set of information. It just requires, going through each thing separately. What I want is to be able to read all of them in one go. And the easiest way I've found to do that is to put the data that we've gotten out of this exercise into a spreadsheet that I can open and then read row by row. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to write a little script that reads the data from each of these JSON files and puts them into a comma-separated value text file that we can then open with a spreadsheet. To do this, I'm going to reuse this this script here, since we've been working with it. If this was a more complicated thing, I would probably start a separate chat just to clear the context. In this case, I think that we can work within this one. So let me let's do this. I'm going to open the JSON that the script just saved, and I'm going to copy this whole thing, and I'm going to use that as part of the query to this chat. So great, that worked well. Now let's write another script. I want to be able to validate the data in all of these JSON files. Please help me write a script that reads each of the .json files in the JSON directory, extracts the data they contain, and appends that data to a .csv file called reading nodes data.csv. I will create that file with the necessary headings. This script should just append the relevant data rows. Here is the JSON structure. Here is a sample JSON file, so you know what fields we're working with. Note that authors can be an array, can contain more than one entry. Okay. Let's see what it does. It's probably gonna write a new script, hopefully. Yes, indeed, it did write a new script. And let's read this one. So it is first defining two variables. One is the JSON directory, correct, right? Like it's called JSON. The other is the CSV file that we're going to be writing to. That is correct. Then it's validating whether there is in fact a JSON directory. It's validating whether there is in fact a CSV file. Then it is processing each one of the .json files in the JSON directory. There's an error condition here in case it doesn't find the relevant file. It is then extracting, here, this is the key thing, right? It is extracting the data that it finds in the JSON structures. And it is once again doing this is very clever. It's escaping the double quotes to avoid breakage, because double quotes have significance in CSV, right? And then it's appending the row to the CSV file. So let's make sure that it has, yes, it's appending it to the right file. And then it is, it's returning a success message. Then it ends with a comment. This is not part of the script. This is a comment for me. Yes, it's telling me that it's using a semicolon to as a delimiter for the authors array. It is properly quoting all fields because they might contain commas, which is the proper way to go about this with CSV. And then it is specifying here what the order of the columns is. This is very important because remember that I told it that I would be writing a CSV file that already had the header row. So we actually do need to create this file. And I'm just going to copy this row here. And I am going to create a new file. What did I tell it we would call it? readingnotesdata.csv. So let's create that file. I'm going to do that using the command line. So pb paste. So remember, I've already copied that from Claude. So pb paste. And we said we would call it reading notes data.csv. This file should now exist. xf reading notes data.csv. We do need a line break after this header row, right? Because if not, it's going to append the first entry directly at the end of the header row. So let's go back to the script. Well, this is not the script we're going to be using, right? So I need to create a new script. And again, I'm going to use the same technique. I'm just going to copy this as is. I've already kind of read it over, and it does seem to be doing the right thing. So I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to, once again, do the PB pasting thing. What shall we call this? Let's call it paste. Let's call it process JSON. Process JSON. No, let's call it JSON to CSV. JSON to CSV, and it'll have the .sh extension. We do need to change permission. Well, let's make sure that this exists now. XF JSON to CSV. Yes, it's here. We do need to change permissions on this because if it doesn't have execute permissions, it's not going to run. So plus X JSON to CSV. Okay. I think we should be ready to go here. Let me just do an ls to make sure that we have everything we need. Remember, we need this metadata, reading notes data.csv. That's the one that we need, right? So it's got the right name. Okay, so I think that this should work. Let's run it and we'll see. Okay, it says it's done its thing. So let's switch over to the CSV file and refresh it. And there we go. It has populated it. Now, this is not very easy to read, right? So what we want to do now is we want to open that CSV file with our spreadsheet. And to do that, I'm just going to open this directory. And I'm going to drag a reading notes data.csv onto numbers. And it opens it. And here, and this is now, I'm not going to do it live with you on the video because that would get boring, right? But this is now an easy way for me to go through each one of these rows and look at the resulting canonical URL. So let's look at the spreadsheet. We have the full title of the book, which is correct. We have the authors. We have the publisher. We have the year published. We have the URL, which, if you recall, is the original URL. And then we have the canonical URL, which is the one that Perplexity has found. There are a few here, like I said, that I don't think are going to be the right thing. So, for example, I can see one right off the bat. So this book, this might be a little hard to read just because of how small the text is. So let me make this bigger. So the book, Technically Wrong, by Sarah Vaktor Botker. I don't know how to pronounce Sarah's name. Sorry. But this book, I can see that the URL here is to the books page on her website. It might be that there is a more canonical URL for that. So now the next step for me would be to go through this list and actually read each one of these and see if they are in fact the right URLs. And if not, I can then find a better URL, and I'll update in the JSON file itself. So I'll correct that there manually so that in a subsequent step, I can then write another script that modifies the markdown file so that it adds the metadata. So that's where an exercise like this would land for me. And this is how I'm getting myself in the loop. I'm having the LLM do a lot of the grunt work for me, but I don't fully trust it, right? So I'm going to bake a step into the process where I can check the work and then tweak it as necessary before making any changes to my content. I hope this was useful. I would love to hear what you think. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. And if this video was useful to you in any way, please give a thumbs up. All right, see you on the next one.